It's all about Trump's rhetoric, is it? Everything bad that has happened to Trump, including 2 assassination attempts, is Trump's fault. And everything that has happened in Springfield, Ohio, is also Trump's fault. Anything bad that has happened anywhere is Trump's fault, whether it happens to Trump or doesn't happen to Trump. You see, the problem is only Trump and all Trump. And if only Trump were away and gone and disappeared and not running for president, well, then no bad thing would ever happen anywhere. That is now the mantra of the political left. And their plan is to try and use that all the way to victory. And if they are victorious, that is the playbook for forever. Because there's always another Trump. They just decide it's so. Tony Katz today. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. That's the number. That's how you get to be a part of the show. This was CNN just today.
Well, I'll tell you where they think it helps them politically. They know that last week, the conversation was all about how Donald Trump got absolutely dominated in that debate and how poorly he performed and how well Kamala Harris performed. And they didn't like that conversation. Donald Trump was humiliated by that conversation. And so what does Donald Trump do? Because he's a bad person, because he's a small person, he lashes out at these marginalized communities as a way to make himself feel big and tough.
That's Sarah Longwell, executive director of Republican Voters Against Trump, and she's the editor of The Bulwark, which would tell you all you need to know about her positioning. If I would argue, as I have, it wasn't a great night for Trump. I said terrible, and I mean it, but it wasn't Biden level terrible. And as we have seen in levels of polling, as we have seen in levels of response, he at least engaged in some level of, well, here's policy, or here's an idea, or here's a thought. Kamala Harris did not. And even now, as we take a look at the latest poll, with 2,700 registered voters, not likely voters, Harris +4 is still in the same spot. The spread on Real Clear Politics is two. That's the highest I've seen it, but it's not 7. It isn't where these people would desperately think it should be. But let's go back to Sarah Longwell for a moment.
And J.D. Vance has sort of wholesale imbibed this strategy from Donald Trump. And so what they did is they, out of whole cloth, out of like some baseless rumors from a person who apologized, by the way. The person who had posted this on Facebook originally apologized, said it wasn't true, was sorry for the havoc she was creating. But that doesn't matter to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. They are willing to continue to terrorize this community because they prefer a conversation that is in the, vein of immigration, that is somewhere approximating immigration, because they feel like that's safer territory for them.
Now, immigration is fine territory for them, considering Kamala Harris was the border czar and what an absolutely terrible job she did, not caring about the border in the slightest. But if you want to argue that Trump and Vance got the story wrong about people eating dogs and cats, Haitian migrants eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio. I was in Springfield, Ohio. The people I spoke to, which wasn't every citizen of Springfield, said, no, that's not happening. Geese, that's happening. Dogs and cats, not happening. Although I'm sure someone somewhere will eventually show up with a video saying, aha, showed you, told you. You can argue that Trump never should have gone down that road because it's always been about people and not about pets. There is an immigration issue regarding temporary protected status, regarding what's happening in Springfield and small towns all across the Midwest, which, of course, people like Sarah Longwell clearly don't want to be a part of. But if we're going to talk about saying things that aren't true, Kamala Harris in that debate once again said Trump was going to bring you Project 2025, and Trump has said he has no part of it and wants no part of it. Once again has brought up this idea of Charlottesville, Virginia, and very fine people on both sides, and nobody asked for her to apologize when it has been debunked repeatedly. It's an interesting thing that we see again and again. Their plan, their objective, their desire. Trump is always guilty, and they never apologize for their own person. I can sit here and note to you, who may be outrageously supportive of Trump, that I don't think he should have brought this up. I didn't want to hear about they're eating the dogs and eating the cats. I wanted to hear about the people. I think it was a mistake. I can say so without any level of hesitation whatsoever. Easy as can be. Honesty allows those kinds of things. Could Sarah Longwell? And the answer is no. Why? Because to do that is to engage in honesty. And what they are trying to engage in is something wholly different.
But they don't care who they hurt. And Donald Trump, as Essie said, and it's absolutely true, he created this specter of political violence that we all now live under, and he lives under it too. And so it is his rhetoric that has been, creating this environment for the last 8 years. And J.D. Vance trying to chastise people is absurd.
So there it is. The playbook. Trump is responsible for everything, including the assassination attempts against him. This is going to be the ongoing mantra. And even when confronted with the fact that they are misrepresenting and not telling the truth, they do not do it. They continue to double and triple down. The only guy on CNN worth listening to is Scott Jennings. He has been tremendous on CNN. Absolutely tremendous. This exchange that he has with Elie Mystal is, this is great.
Saturday. If you want something done, if you want to get away from this violence and hatred, the clearest thing to do is to take away the weapons that these people are using to cause the violence and hatred. So, rhetoric does not kill people. Guns do.
So you're okay with people being radicalized. You just want to disarm them, but it's okay to continue to lie to them about what will happen to the country if your political opponents win.
He didn't say that.
That is an excellent response. Of course, the words, the radicalization gets people killed. Of course it does. It causes them to do what? Utilize the weapon, as we have now seen in Butler, Pennsylvania, and as we saw the attempt in Florida. Scott Jennings does excellent work. But remember what Elie Mystal is saying here, the lawyer usually seen on MSNBC. Trump did this, Trump did that, Trump did the other. And when Scott Jennings even goes to expose how you're misrepresenting Trump's words on every level, they don't stop.
Just to address your point about Harris, I just don't agree. The underpinning of her campaign, she repeats it herself. Trump will be a dictator on day one. This country fights dictators. That's what our history is. We fight dictators.
Didn't he say that?
He'll be a dictator on day one. There'll be a bloodbath. There'll be a bloodbath.
That there would be a bloodbath.
He wants to terminate the U.S. Constitution.
She didn't say that there would be.
The first thing she said, which was true, and the second thing
it is said by every Democrat working for or around her campaign every day on this network and every other one. The bloodbath thing is stated every single day.
Okay, let me just.
But my point is, dictator, bloodbath, eliminate Constitution.
Hold on.
What do you think
just to clear this up, you're referring to Trump's use of the word bloodbath when he was talking.
And what was he talking about?
I'm going to explain it to people because I think there's confusion about this. Use of the word bloodbath when he was talking about, vehicle manufacturing jobs in the United States.
He was talking about the fact that if he doesn't win, the economy is going to be worse. And what we're seeing with manufacturing, Wall Street, it's going to be a bloodbath. In typical Trump fashion, it wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty. But it wasn't, if I don't win, it's going to be a bloodbath on the streets. And even when Abby Phillip there is trying to explain it, which she doesn't do well, nope.
Vice President Harris improperly and unfairly mischaracterized that as him saying there would be a bloodbath if he were elected. However, she did not say that if Trump were elected, there would be a bloodbath. She did not say that.
I know you have interviewed and had people out here and have watched the same coverage I have. The bloodbath garbage is a pillar of the Democratic campaign against Trump, as is dictator, as is eliminate the U.S. Constitution.
Jennings' point stands that even when presented, as Abby Phillip did there, with the data, It continues, and it continues on that network and MSNBC and the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc. Guys, I don't bring you good news. I'm sorry. It sucks. But this is the new reality. Trump is responsible and at fault for the assassination attempts against him. His skirt is too short, and he's responsible for anything that happens anywhere else to any other group. If he brings up anything, he's responsible for anything that might happen. The Atlantic, Tom Nichols writing in The Atlantic, no other president has used an assassination attempt to inflame American politics the way Donald Trump does. Oh, that's something. He's using it to inflame American politics. He's been shot at once and someone tried to shoot at him a second time. But somehow he's at fault. Then we get to Cincinnati.com. Over there at Cincinnati.com, which is the Inquirer there is no place in politics for violence. That said, the former president, Donald Trump, brings a lot of this on himself. The left wants to excuse anything that happens to Trump. How could people possibly control themselves and just go to the ballot box and vote for somebody else? How could they possibly be asked to be rational, normal, decent human beings? They have to react with absolute violence and try and kill the man. I mean, what do you expect? This is their argument. And if he should bring up anything, well, I mean, that just means that he's racist. Oh, that means he's a bigot. Oh, that just means he's too scared to have a conversation. Oh, it means this and it means that and the other. Everything at all times is Trump's fault. Here is the part that matters to you. Let's make the argument that Trump loses, which is not something that I want. If Trump loses, whoever runs 4 years from now, this will be the same exact argument. The temperature is so high, if only name the candidate or insert candidate name here would lower the temperature. Oh, the rhetoric is so high, if only Republican candidate, insert Republican candidate here, would lower the temperature. Doesn't matter who it is. And remember that they've been leading up to this and gearing up to this. You may not like Mitt Romney today, right? Trump broke the man, and that happened. And I guess that happens to a guy who was this close to being president of the United States and couldn't close the deal against Barack Obama. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't fight. Mitt Romney would not fight. That's what happened. Do you know the awful things they said about Mitt Romney? Harry Reid, the former senator, the late senator, the lowlife. Mitt Romney doesn't pay his taxes. And when asked about it, Harry Reid said, don't ask me, ask Mitt Romney. He admitted that he made it up. And his answer was, we won, didn't we? It was your first clue, maybe, that they're playing a much different game. They're playing an all or nothing game. They're playing a destroy game. The binder's full of women. The dog on top of the car. You couldn't find somebody more decent as a human being than Mitt Romney. Full on destruction. It was the first time maybe for many people you saw where this party, this Democratic Party, was going. And you see it in the impeachment attempts. You see it in the conversations. And I'm not saying Trump is some kind of angel. I am not making the argument that Trump has never done anything wrong or has handled everything perfectly. I have a long litany of things that I've discussed on this show, and I'll discuss them anywhere. But Trump is the only person who's been raising the temperature and engaging in bad rhetoric. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Jamie Raskin, the Squad, just the people I shared with you on CNN. Trump is going to destroy democracy. Trump is going to destroy America. Dear Lord, do I have to go back to the commentary of Joe Biden himself? Let's take a look at Joe Biden in June of 2024. June 28th, 2024. If you follow me over at TonyKatz.com, I've got my show sheet there if you're part of what we do, and you'll see it for yourself. Joe Biden wrote, quote, Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. Unquote. They have been pushing this idea that Trump is going to get us all killed. They, the political left, have been pushing for a lone wolf to stop Trump, and now we've seen two try. And yet it's Trump who's guilty of all rhetoric, of all raising temperature. This is the tactic now. And I'm telling you, if they're successful, it will never go away. And if they're not successful and Trump should get reelected, well, then there's only a 90% chance it won't go away. I'd rather take the 90%, please. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today.